Tobacco did not become money because it was permanent. It became money because, in a world short of coin, people were willing to accept packed leaves as settlement before the leaves spoiled, before their quality was challenged, and before the next debt came due. In the Chesapeake, value could arrive in a heavy hogshead rather than a purse. A planter might owe a merchant, a laborer might be paid, a tax might be demanded. The answer was not always silver. It could be tobacco, dried, bundled, weighed, inspected, and recognized as payment. The system worked, but only while recognition held. Before coins, before banks, belief ruled the world. This was not money separated from use. Tobacco was wanted in European markets, grown through colonial labor, moved through merchant networks, and accepted by authorities for obligations. In Virginia and Maryland, where coin was scarce, tobacco became payment because it stood at the center of export life. The same fact that made it useful also made it fragile. A coin carried a stamped claim that remained fixed. Tobacco carried condition. It had to be planted, harvested, cured, packed, protected from moisture, brought to market, and judged acceptable. Its value was not hidden inside the leaf. It had to be proven again and again with each transaction. Prices, debts, rents, and taxes could be expressed in pounds of tobacco. A man without silver could still settle an account if his crop was accepted. Merchants could advance imported goods against future harvests. Credit could stretch across the season because everyone knew what tobacco might become once it reached warehouse and ship. But this extension of obligation across time depended on the crop surviving the interval between planting and acceptance. Tobacco money did not remove uncertainty, it relocated it. The crop might be poor, the curing might fail, the leaves might be light, damaged, or mixed with inferior material. A payment measured in tobacco still had to become tobacco that others would accept. The object could move, but its quality could still be questioned at every stage. This is why inspection mattered. Tobacco entering wider circulation needed more than local reputation. It needed sorting, weighing, grading, and storage. Warehouses and inspectors helped turn variable leaves into a recognizable claim. Without that process, every payment reopened the same problem. How much value was inside the bundle? The exchange did not resolve at delivery. A merchant who accepted tobacco was accepting delay. The leaves still had to remain usable, be stored safely, perhaps be sold abroad, and hold enough value to cover the account. The creditor received something real, but not something final. Between field and market stood time, handling, judgment, and risk. Tobacco allowed payment where coin was scarce, but it required cultivation, curing, inspection, storage, transport, and continued demand. Without those supports, the obligation could remain while the payment failed. For the person owing tobacco, the system could become a trap of timing. A debt recorded in pounds did not disappear because rain damaged the crop, or because poor curing reduced its grade. The creditor could still count the obligation. The season had changed, the account had not. Time did not reset the system. A small planter lived inside a calendar, linking soil, labor, weather, warehouse rules, and merchant credit. He might deliver what he had grown and still find that it did not satisfy what he owed. This was the human pressure inside commodity money. The thing used to pay was also exposed to failure. It could be ruined before settlement, downgraded before acceptance, or lose value before resale. The person did not merely need tobacco, he needed tobacco that the system would recognize. A commodity can become money only when others continue to accept it. That acceptance had to be reinforced. Merchant accounts, inspection notes, and export demand all supported the leaf. The more exchange widened, the more tobacco needed institutions around it. Personal trust was not enough once the payment had to travel beyond the grower. Beyond the local network, trust became harder to carry. At that point, tobacco money revealed a deeper transition. The leaf remained important, but value increasingly depended on documents, accounts, and authorities that represented the leaf. A receipt from inspected tobacco could become easier to transfer than the tobacco itself. The claim began to move more smoothly than the commodity. When a bulky crop requires records to circulate efficiently, people are already learning to trust something beyond the object. The leaf created the value, but the record helped carry it. Tobacco money solved a real problem. It gave a coin-poor economy a recognized payment unit. It tied local exchange to export demand. It allowed taxes, debts, rents, and purchases to be settled through the main commodity of the region. But each advantage carried a burden. Tobacco was divisible by weight, but not uniform in quality. It was valuable, but vulnerable to spoilage. It was widely demanded, but tied to harvest cycles and market fluctuations. It was recognizable in the Chesapeake, but less reliable as distance increased. It could pay an obligation, but only after others accepted its condition. This is the structural limit of commodity payment systems. They work best when the commodity is familiar, demanded, and locally trusted. They strain when exchange grows larger, when parties are distant, when quality varies, and when obligations must survive beyond the condition of a physical object. By the time tobacco required warehouses, inspection, receipts, accounts, and merchant credit, the system was no longer resting on the leaf alone. It was resting on the machinery that made the leaf acceptable. The commodity still mattered, but recognition had begun to move into the system around it. Tobacco money worked because it was useful, desired, and accepted. It strained because the object carrying value was agricultural, variable, bulky, and vulnerable to distance. It showed that money could grow out of a commodity, but not that a commodity could carry every burden money would later bear. In the next episode, we will examine how fur economies turned animal pelts into trade units. Through them, value moved even farther across distance, but became dependent on extraction, networks, and imperial demand.